It's been 25 years since Chuck Schumer entered the U.S. Senate, and he is now the longest-serving U.S. Senator in New York history and the only New Yorker to become the Senate Majority Leader, a role that would end if Republicans win enough Senate seats in November. This week, we're looking at how Schumer has wielded power, his impact on New York, and also the nation. Here's Washington reporter Kevin Fry starting out this three-part series for us.
It was early September, and Senator Chuck Schumer was in upstate New York, just outside of Elmira, for a big announcement.
Thank you so much.
The giant multinational company Siemens unveiled plans for a first-of-its-kind high-speed rail production plant in the U.S., bringing hundreds of jobs to the rural New York town of Horseheads. The decision aided by the bipartisan infrastructure law that Schumer had ushered through the Senate.
We are going to be the center of railcar and high-speed railcar manufacturing in the whole country.
A short time later, Schumer rushed back to Washington for the swearing in of a new senator from New Jersey. This is Schumer's juggling act, balancing the business of Senate Majority Leader with the pedestrian rituals of a local politician. Even as he has risen to the pinnacle of power, he still visits each of New York's 62 counties every year, continuing a tradition he began when first entering the Senate.
If you had asked me, is Schumer a workaholic? I'd say no, he's not a workaholic. He works harder than most workaholics.
That relentlessness has been a hallmark of Schumer's political career and a major reason for its durability. We sat down with him at the Corning Museum of Glass right after that high-speed rail announcement.
If anything, I've been persistent in just about everything I've done, and what I have found is usually it pays off.
Schumer was born in Brooklyn, the son of an exterminator and a homemaker. Fresh out of Harvard Law School, he was elected to the New York State Assembly at 23, the youngest person to do that since Teddy Roosevelt. He moved on to Congress, winning notice for passing legislation like the Brady Bill, which required background checks for most gun purchases.
We are all frightened for our children. We're disgusted by this orgy of handgun slaughter.
And after Republicans took control of the House in 1995, sending Democrats to the minority, a frustrated Schumer set his sights higher.
I have been majority Senate, majority House, minority House. Only one really sucks. So I left the House to go to the Senate.
But to get there, he'd have to defeat two New York institutions.
No matter what next week brings.
First, former Democratic Congresswoman Geraldine Ferraro. Schumer defeated her in a three-way Democratic primary. And then the incumbent senator, three-term Republican Alphonse D'Amato.
I'm going to continue to work and fight for the people of this state.
Known as Senator Pothole because of his work on constituent services.
Would have been easier to run against anybody. Chuck Schumer works as hard, if not harder than anybody. He's bright, he's articulate.
To counter D'Amato, Schumer deployed what would soon become a staple of his politics, talking consumer and kitchen table issues aimed at appealing to a hypothetical middle-class family he dubbed the Baileys.
They want to be taken seriously. They are not that partisan. They want to make sure you care about what they care about, show them some respect, and realize that they just want a better life for themselves and their kids.
Schumer campaigned as a centrist Democrat and relentlessly stumped upstate, betting he could narrow the Republicans' advantage in their traditional stronghold. The strategy worked, redefining how a Democrat could win in the state. Schumer won with nearly 55% of the vote.
We're going to cross the finish line ahead of Al D'Amato.
In the Senate, Democratic leader Harry Reid of Nevada became one of Schumer's mentors. Ahead of the 2006 election, Reid named Schumer chair of the Senate Democrats' campaign arm. Schumer stayed on for the 2008 election, too. Democrats gained seats in both campaign cycles.
Harry Reid recognized Chuck's skill and Chuck's uncanny ability to communicate otherwise arcane policy into sort of common sense, meat and potatoes messaging that people understood and could connect with.
An uncanny ability to communicate, coupled with a driving ambition that's played out in different ways.
They're rampant in the high schools.
As he worked his way up the political ladder in New York, Schumer routinely scheduled news conferences, often focused on consumer issues, for every Sunday, sensing correctly that media outlets were starved for stories on a normally slow news day. On Capitol Hill, Senator Bob Dole first uttered what would become a cliche, that the most dangerous place in Washington is between Schumer and a camera. Former aides say Schumer could be demanding and hard-charging, but also willing to hear out their ideas. And funny, even quirky.
I've been told your song of choice is It's Raining Men. Can you please explain why?
I just love the song. But we have a little party every year. We call it Christmas in Schumerland. And I have led the staff dancing around with turning the umbrellas upside down. That's the lyrics of the song. To the song. It's a tradition.
Retired California Senator Barbara Boxer worked alongside Schumer for nearly 2 decades.
Chuck is one of the smartest people I know. He's very, very bright. It's disarming because he's also very funny and he's self-deprecating, and he just, it takes a while to get him because of all that.
The alumni network of former Schumer aides is large, stretching to many corners of Washington and beyond.
He's the only man that crashed my bridal shower in Brooklyn. He rode his bike over.
By 2017, when Reid retired, Schumer's Democratic colleagues had elected him as their new leader. And in 2021, after Democrats picked up a few more Senate seats, he ascended to the job he long sought, Majority Leader, the first New Yorker and the first Jewish person to hold the position.
If you were to ask someone about Chuck Schumer in 1998, they would probably describe to you ambitious, sharp-elbowed New Yorker, really working his way to be noticed, be seen, centered on himself. I think if you asked anyone about who Chuck Schumer is today, they would tell you that he is the same level of energy around accomplishment, but with a much more sophisticated and accomplished worldview around the way you get that done.
With the new job came new power. Power he'd wield to pass big national legislation that would touch communities back home. In Washington, Kevin Fry, New York 1.